Hello, input 1, commentator, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, check, hello and welcome to the game. 1, 2, 3, that sounds pretty good. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. Sunday, 3 p.m. 15 minutes to kick off. Beautiful.
This big round 15 fixture between Sydney United 58 Football Club and St George City FA. For the away team this afternoon, we have, for the St George lineup, number 1, Jack Kenny in goals. Number 2, Matthew Walby. Number 3, Carlo De Gode. Number 6, Tariq Erkan. Number 8, Dominic Cox. 9, Mark McNulty. 10, Paolo Mitri. 11, Fumoto Kamada. 23, Dakota Askew. 25, Brody Clarkson. And number 33, Lewis Curry. On the bench for St George this afternoon are number 7, Nathan Roberts. 12, Cal Kamakura. 13, Cameron Kemp. 15, Nathan Grimaldi. 16, William Kunis. And number 18, Gonzalo Agrelos. For Sydney United, the home team this afternoon. In goal, number 1, Tristan Pendergrass. Number 3, Bailey Rule. 5, Anthony Tomalich. 9, Patrick Antelmi. 10, Carlos de Oliveira. 11, Matthew Hatch. 12, Richard Darko. 14, Liam McGing. 17, Michael Glassick. 19, Aidan Milicevic. And number 32, Leroy Jennings. On the bench this afternoon are number 6, Thomas Mako. 8, Mario Chabot. 22, Stefan de Robillard. 23, Mason Wells. 31, Josip Orlovic. And number 37, Luke Juvella. Let's hope the home team can get a big win this afternoon here at the Sydney United Sports Centre.
Hello and welcome to the Sydney United Sports Centre. Round 15 action of the NPL New South Wales men's competition. The hosts, Sydney United 58, taking on St George City FA. As the weather cools down here in Sydney, especially southwest Sydney, it's heating up in the competition here in the race for finals. And here are two contenders battling for those spots in the early stages of the season. Thank you for joining us on the Football New South Wales YouTube page. I'm Dominic Cronidi, your commentator for today. And we should have a thrilling matchup between two sides eager to continue their good form of late. And we're underway here at the Sydney United Sports Centre in Adenza Park. Really chilly here today. First real cold game of the season during the day for Sydney United, and a big foul there to start with. It was Lewis Curry. Went in pretty late on Richie Darko, who's making his first league start today for Sydney United 58, his junior club. Spent a lot of time here, and obviously a new signing in the off-season. Been pretty unlucky and unfortunate with injuries to start. Just one appearance off the bench so far, and gets his first start today with Sydney United opting to rotate a little bit with cup and suspension starting to have their say on their season essentially. And there's a lot of first graders in the under-20s game as well earlier. So plenty of options, plenty of depth in both sides. They're both pretty lucky to be untouched thus far in terms of starting lineups. We'll get to that momentarily, with both teams fielding pretty much the same lineups as they did last week, albeit two sides on the end of two different results, it should be said. Let's get to the starting lineup for the hosts, Sydney United 58. And their coach, Ante Juric, just one change from the side that lost 4-0 to Sydney Olympic in the league last week. It's a good ball from Carlos de Oliveira, finds Darko back in the middle. First time effort, it's an even better save there from Jack Kenny between the sticks. First real chance of the game going towards Sydney United, and a good stop there to get him warmed up there, Jack Kenny. And good involvement there from Richie Darko. So their starting lineup, Sydney United in goals, number 1, Tristan Prendergast, number 3, Bailey Rule, number 5, and the captain today, Anthony Tomalich, number 9, Patrick Antelmi, number 10, Carlos de Oliveira, number 11, Matthew Hatch, number 12, Richie Darko, number 14, Liam McGinn, paired with his other centre-back for today, Michael Glassick, number 19, Aidan Milicevic, and number 32, Leroy Jennings on the left side of the park, rounds out the starting lineup as a good chance for St George City in the early stages here, and one back by today's captain, Anthony Tomalich. The most capped player in this current side for Sydney United 58, over 300 first grade games, and slowly climbing his way towards the top as the most capped Sydney United player of all time. So the bench for Sydney United, number 6, Thomas Mako, number 8, Mario Chabot, number 22, Stephen de Robillard, number 23, Mason Wells, number 31, the backup goalkeeper is Josip Orlovic, and Luke Zuvella rounds out the bench after a quick stint in the 20s for the last couple of weeks. He returns to the bench. So a free kick here for Sydney United. They get another chance going here. So United are missing their captain, Adrian Vlastelica, out due to suspension. Accumulated 5 yellow cards. So he'll miss this week and be back for next week's clash against the Sutherland Sharks in round 16. But let's get to St George City, team that is yet to lose in their last 5 games in this league. Made a pretty impressive run at the final spots in that time, being 2 draws and 3 wins in their last 5 after a pretty shaky April. They're back in form, and they're looking defensively solid as well, as you can see from the early settings here. But their starting lineup is as follows. Number 1, Jack Kenny in goals. Number 2, Matthew Wabi. Number 3, coming off the bench from last week and starting, is Kayo Degudo. Number 6, Tariq Ergun. Number 8, Dominic Cox. Number 9, the team's top goal scorer this season, Mark McNulty. Number 10, Paolo Mitri. Number 11, Fumoto Kamada. There's another chance here for Sydney United on the left as we get back to the lineups as soon as we can. Leroy Jennings. Back to Hatch, first time cross. It's a real long loopy effort and no real danger for keeper or defence, as Kamada sends that one to Curry. Misplaced pass Another chance here for United. The Oliveira's pass goes a bit astray. And now it is Mitri the other way. Sniffed out by McGing. So the remainder of the starting lineup for St. George. Number 23, Dakota Askew. Number 25, Brody Clarkson. Number 33, Lewis Curry. In the middle of the park. And the bench. Number 7, Nathan Roberts. Number 12, Kai Kamakura. Number 13, Cameron Kemp. Number 15, Nathan Grimaldi. Number 16, William Kunis. And number 18, Gonzalo Agriles. So now we can return to the action with Sydney United on the attack again. Hatch has his pockets picked there by Mitri. They're under a bit of early pressure here. St. George in the first 5 minutes. It's always a good sign as a commentator. If you can't get through the starting lineups in the first 5 minutes, there's obviously a bit of action happening. So if that's a bit of what's to come, we should have a pretty good game in store. These two entertaining sides on this very cold afternoon in Adenza Park. And now the action calming down a bit with the Godoy out the back. So a couple of other games as well with simultaneous kickoffs to this one. We've got Apia Leichhardt taking on Sydney Olympic in the match of the round at Lambert Park. And Rockdale Linden hosting Sydney FC in what is shaping up to be another finals battle, essentially, with Sydney FC surprising everyone with their starts of the season. All games currently goalless as it stands, but we'll keep you updated on those as the afternoon progresses. So other than that early shout where they had a little run down the left through Curry, there hasn't been too much to celebrate for St. George City in the opening stages here. United look very motivated after a disappointing 4-0 loss to Sydney Olympic in round 14. Richie Darko now. Tomilic. Hatch. Calm as you like it there from Tomilic. And you've seen the walkout there. Anthony Tomilic with the captain's armband on one arm and his son in the other, carrying out the match ball for today. Good scenes. You like to see stuff like that from a family club such as Sydney United. So foul conceded there by Milicevic. And it's De Godoy who gets us back underway. KO De Godoy. There's Brody Clarkson there who passed it back to De Godoy, but didn't like what he was seeing there from Kamada on the left. Gave him a bit of a stare. Maybe mistimed a run or something, but chance to redeem it now. Clarkson over the top, trying to find Kamada. And first time clearance, not messing around there, Bailey Rule. It's an interesting battle on the left side of the park today with Bailey Rule going up against both Lewis Curry and Kamada, who loves to go forward in attack. He's already shown that this season, but so plenty of yells from the sideline to go forward for St. George. They're more happy to compose themselves and knock it around a little bit at the back. Very strong at holding possession, this St. George side, as that is a great little flick on there. Back in the middle to Mitri. Mitri cuts his ball back in. McNulty. His shot deflected away by Glassick, but not out of danger. It was a sensational run by Matthew Wabi, who just skinned Leroy Jennings on the further side of the pitch there. Quick throw. Short one. Edge of the box, Clarkson. Wabi, again, just happy to reset. Play it out through the back. De Godoy has had plenty of involvement so far, the number 3. Great football on display by St. George City. Wabi again. De Godoy, a bit more advanced this time. Out wide, Kamada. got to think after a couple of minutes of this, at what point is this going to frustrate Sydney United 58? And you can see De Oliveira urging his teammates to get a bit of a high press on, and his urgency's paid off. Sydney United with the ball back now. And now Tomilic with a bit of space and room to move. Just a football clinic so far from both teams in terms of the passing. Only a couple have gone astray, but other than that, if you love football at its purest form, this is what we're getting today. McGing. Bailey Rule. De Oliveira botched his first touch a little bit there and wasn't able to turn, but he's rewarded with a free kick in the end. Probably the fourth free kick in this area for Sydney United so far, as they wanted to take it quickly there, but the referee insisting that she hadn't blown the whistle yet. Classic. Tomilic. It's interesting to note for Sydney United 58, as we mentioned before, there was 3 regular first graders in the 20 side that came back from 2-1 down in almost the 80th minute against St. George to win 3-2. Alessandra Lacalandra, probably the most notable of that bunch, scoring the winner with essentially the final kick of the game. Michael Pratzina and Anthony Krilic also featuring in that one as Hatch. His cross deflected away, not out of danger though, and Telmi heads it back into the middle. And no chance to mess around there. And the first time clearance, pretty good. Out for a throw though. Tadic Ergan that was, the skipper. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of this today, just the centre halves controlling the tempo in terms of getting the attack going and playing it out through the middle. Tomilic advancing. It's so key having players like Tomilic and Glassick in the team that can easily fill in the 6 role or the centre-back role if needed. Glassick's ball over the top. Wabi's under pressure, has to get rid of it, keeps it in. Glassick right back into the danger zone for Sydney United, but it's intercepted by Brody Clarkson, who wastes little time getting it out wide. McNulty. 5 goals this season, top scorer for St. George City. He's level, if you want to compare the two sides, with 2 of Sydney United's top goal scorers on 5 goals as well, Patrick Antelmi and Mason Wells. Kaya Degode has popped up for a couple goals himself. 3 goals this season, and him the 3rd highest tally for this St. George City side. Cox, first time ball, will chip dink over the top, if you will, to Wabi, who's got 3 Sydney United shirts around him, but finds a way out of it. Nice ball through the middle now. Good chance across McNulty. Deflected into the arms of Prendergast. Bailey Rule had plenty of calls for Bailey for that ball over the top, but it's going to be shielded out by Tadic Ergan. And a bit of wasteful there by Sydney United. As the Godoy lines this one up. Looking more like St. George playing their more advanced 3 at the back, 5 at the back, with the hybrid wing backs of Kamada and Wabi. They've already shown their willingness to get forward and track back as well. Dakota Askew with a great ball out wide to that man Wabi. Pockets picked by Leroy Jennings. Possession recovered though. Cox, Clarkson. Godoy. Inviting them to use the space is Sydney United, and happy to man mark and rule out all the passing options as De Oliveira urging his team again to press high and trap them in their own half, St. George City. Richie Darko making up plenty of pace there. And the presence of the skipper Tomalich enough to cough up possession there from Lewis Curry. Bailey Rule now. Goes across Tomalich again. He's been under plenty of pressure there by McNulty, especially when they're playing in that little hybrid back three, if you will. Tomalich dropping back to allow both wing backs to get forward and have their hands involved in the attack. Darko gets past one, push for his troubles, and it's a nice welcome back to first grade starting for Richie Darko after suffering a pretty bad quad injury in pre-season and only managing one substitute appearance against the Wollongong Wolves a couple of weeks ago where he re-injured that. Now back to full health and good time as well with Sydney United poised to make another deep cup run as they did a couple years ago. 2023, that famous run where they were undone by the MacArthur Bulls in the final. Richie Darko now trapped in a corner. Tries to get past to Godoy, but uses his strength to win the ball back. Kamada. Rule, smart work there to kick it off Kamada's feet and win his side a throw deep into their own half. Hatch. Nice little 1-2 play here by Sydney United, like their little triangles between the wing back, winger and centre mid, whoever is on that side. Bailey Rule. Looked in the middle for De Oliveira, who left it for Antelmi, and Tadic Ergan, the beneficiary of that. Good ball through, trying to find McNulty, and Prendergast is under pressure there by the number 9, but does well to get it away to Glassick, who turns his defender to give his side a bit of space and breathing room coming out of their own end. Back to Glassick now. Hatch with a bit of space, opts to go through with Milicevic, and a first-time boarder, Leroy Jennings, doesn't go the way he planned. Possession now with Cox. Fouled in the process there, and a chance for St. George City to just take a moment and recapture possession. 17 minutes gone here so far. Time's flying past here. Good game of football, despite the lack of real chances on goal, we'd say. Kamada, plenty of space to go forward, but shielded off the ball by De Oliveira. Now in a dangerous spot, McGing wasting no time getting rid of that, and De Godoy, his touch was a little heavy. Doesn't matter in the end though. Good ball to Curry. His touch is a little heavy though. Clarkson wins it back, but in a bit of pain on the ground is Liam McGing after copping a little slice there by McNulty. Long ball by Bailey Rule, trying to find Patrick Antelmi. De Godoy hit the deck, and Ergan forced to get rid of it, and it's going to be a very deep throw-in for Sydney United 58. Antelmi loses possession there, and Kamada gets rid of it and does well to release Mitri. Almost kept it in, but a throw in again for Sydney United 58 on this right side. I think that was Mark McNulty, who had where the ball gone out, Bailey Rule about 5 metres ahead of where the ball gone out, and he refused to play it to him unless he went back to his position, and in the end just threw the ball into open space right about where he thought the ball had gone out. Love a bit of friendly banter between the two sides here. So both sides have been a bit... There's room to improve, you could say, with ball in their feet. After a strong opening 10 minutes, you'd say, from both sides, where they just absolutely dominated possession. Both sides having their stages of dominance. But just looking to expand the play a little bit, and it's resulted in plenty of turnovers. Short one from Kenny. Cox, confidence in his teammates there. No look out to the right with Mitri. And almost dispossessed of the ball was Walby, but picking it up on the burst was Mitri, and that pass a little wayward. Bailey Rule wins it back, and now a chance for Sydney United. The other way, it's the Oliveira. Long switch. A little bit too heavy for Jennings, and a good head back there in the end by Dakota Askew. Long ball away from Kenny. Curry under pressure by Tomilic. So for St. George, as we mentioned, their last 5 games, no loss in this competition. A 0 draw with RPL Leichhardt last week, and a 3-2 win over the Central Coast Mariners the week before, and then a 1-0 win to the Western Sydney Wanderers, and a 2-0 win against the Sutherland Sharks, with a 1-1 draw against Sydney Olympic 5 weeks ago. Their last 5 results, and a 2-0 loss in the Australia Cup to Rockdale Linden. Their last loss in all competitions, that was 6 games ago. But their last loss in the NPL New South Wales men's competition came against Marconi Stallions on the 5th of April. Just a couple kilometres away from here at the Marconi Stadium. With Marconi continuing their strong form back then, obviously gone down last week to the Wollongong Wolves, but continued their winning ways last night against the Sutherland Sharks to remain supreme atop of the ladder in the NPL New South Wales men's competition. The reigning champions. Now Bailey Rule. Good ball, Antomi. Turns, finds Milicevic. Chance for the first. Milicevic, what a save! Jack Kenny. Unbelievable. And that will go down as one of the saves of the season. From that close. Just somehow instinctively stuck out a hand and stopped Milicevic. Unbelievable from Jack Kenny. Darko's cross in right on target, and Kenny caught into action again. That is sensational. I'm still in disbelief from that. That was a sensational save for all money. Milicevic was in there, but Kamada now the other way. St. George, imagine a goal here after how close they came to conceding just moments ago as a throw-in for Sydney United 58. Got to watch that one back on the replay on the YouTube live stream, I think. Throw taken. Darko bursts onto it and releases it where there's plenty of space and numbers out on the left. Leroy Jennings, just a little bit too much for him there off that ball from... It looked like it was Milicevic. Kaya Dugode now. Big scare for St. George City. The biggest chance of the game so far, without a doubt. And if no side finds the back of the net, you've got to think that will be the moment that could decide the points potentially. Very doubtful, but you've got to keep those in mind. The what-ifs of this game. Bailey Rule now. Sydney United hoping not to rue that missed chance and find the back of the net early. They've had some positive stats when scoring first. They've scored first in 6 of their last 7 games. But on the other side of that, St. George have also scored first in 5 of their last 7. Sorry, 4 of their last 5, I should say. So these two sides, when they score first, tend to at least get a result out of the game. Sydney United were the opposite of that to start the season, really. Had to come from behind to get a couple of results after a pretty shaky start, but looking to find a bit of form now with players coming back and the cup run in full swing. A quick stoppage in play here, allowing us to have a quick update around the grounds. RPL Leichhardt still tied 0-0 with Sydney Olympic in the game match of the round, I should say, for round 15. And Rockdale Linden taking a 2-0 lead over Sydney FC. Blake Rusciuto with the first goal, and the second goal unknown yet, but you'd probably assume it was Ale Kuduszewski if he's on the field. So a deep throw here for St. George City as they have gained back a bit of momentum after falling behind a little bit in that category. Clarkson, it's a good turn from Mitri, but McGing, or Glassick it was, beating him to it. Now under pressure, and Coach Carlos de Oliveira urging his team to get the ball again. There's a good ball through here. McNulty, chance for the opener, lobs it over the top, and it hits the roof of the net. Just the wrong side of it for St. George City. A fantastic chance. And their best chance of the half so far. Firing their own shot. And a slight lapse. Just half a second of a lapse there from the defense. Almost gifted St. George City their first goal of the game, and the opening goal of the game for that matter. Bailey Rule goes long, and it skimmed off the head of Kamada, and it just caught Antelmi off guard a little bit, which allowed it to fall through to the Godoy. And now setting up another attack for St. George City. Clarkson. Cross to De Godoy. Kamada. Fakes the first time pass, back in the middle. And again, this is trademark St. George City here. That's what we've seen plenty of in the first half. Clarkson switches at Hatch, heads it away. They love going down this right side, St. George City. Didn't work out this time though. Tomilic has the early option of Richie Darko out in space on the right, with Kamada tracking back a little late, but works out well for St. George City in the end. To Godoy. Now Lewis Curry. And inviting the centre-back to come forward a little bit and join the attack. McNulty. Kamada's pass sniffed out by Bailey Rule. And you could argue one of the slight negatives of this formation, which is slightly better on display a little bit here for St. George City, is that the attacking options, if they're not wide, there's not many, and it forces them to push a bit numbers forward. It is a really good formation for keeping possession and playing out from the back, which they've done really, really well this game and this season alone. But just sensing a little bit of struggle to find options, if you will, in that final third. De Oliveira loses possession in a pretty bad spot. Now a chance for St. George City again. McNulty. Askew. Askew looked for the early ball to Mitri. One out there by De Oliveira. Clarkson, short one to Cox, but Glasic's there. Now I want to keep it just for a little bit here. Sydney United were under the pump a little bit there, after a pretty strong start to the game. And tell me, was being shouldered off the ball there and lost possession in the meantime. Kamada. Coming it back in for Curry. McNulty does well to keep possession despite a strong challenge from Milicevic. And now with a few numbers forward, St. George. Kamada try to fake Bailey Rule out of that one, and the first corner of the game for St. George City. 30 minutes in. First corner of the game. Mitri's ball in direct to the front stick and headed away by De Oliveira, as Richie Darko keeps it in but was outside of the field of play whilst keeping it in. Kamada. Wayward pass, but luckily for them, plenty of numbers back and deep into their own half, as both benches clearing out for a bit of warming up on this cold afternoon at Denser Park. Throw in for St. George City FA. Bergan. Clarkson. Cox, first time ball, and Hatch. They've run that play a few times, and Hatch becoming the wiser now. Curry. Out wide, Kamada beats Bailey Rule to the ball. Play on for the time being, but a foul given, and Bailey Rule's going to go in the book. Pretty strong knock there on Kamada, but Bailey Rule will go in the book for that. So Paolo Mitri, the set-piece specialist for St. George, lining this one up definitely in striking distance. Mitri only one goal this season, and looking to add a second here from this free kick. Plenty of options floating around the back as well. Good ball in, and a perfect chance for a header, but an even better save by Prendergast. And it was Dakota Askew. Hands on his head. He couldn't believe that Prendergast got a glove to that. Sorry, it was Matthew Wabi with the header. But great ball in by Mitri, and he'll be back on corner duties here. Just about everyone forward for St. George City. Good strong ball in at the back stick, headed away by Rule, and consecutive corners now for St. George City. Mitri's cross, low, hard at the front stick, flicked on by Curry and hit away by McGing, who claims to be hit after the fact. And a free kick called after the advantage was played and not used by Sydney United. 10 minutes to go here in the first half. McGing. It's a quick score update. Jordan Segredo strike has Apia Leichhardt up 1-0 against Sydney Olympic. And Rockdale Linden still hold a 2-goal lead against Sydney FC, with Blake Rusciuto bagging a double in the first half. Early brace there. So Jack Kenny doesn't like his options with the ball in his hand, so goes the direct route, trying to find Kamada on the left, and it's a good stop in the end there by Bailey Rule, who heads it back to his keeper. As again, Coach De Oliveira out in the middle, barking instructions to get forward. Try and get his team starting something there, as a little flick on by the referee will force a restart of play. Bailey Rule. First time touch finds Darko. Spreads it across. Tomalic. McGing evaluates his options. Goes direct to Antelmi and had 3 shirts near him, but wins the ball back very bravely there, Patrick Antelmi. And a foul conceded by Lewis Curry late. And he'll go into the book. Second yellow card of this half. So De Oliveira wasting little time getting over this. Looping ball in, almost finds McGing, but headed away by Ergan. And now a chance for a counter-attack, McNulty. Bailey Rule does well to stop that one. De Oliveira. Bailey Rule, his through ball just dribbles away. Unfortunate for him. Goal kick for St. George City. Goal kick taken very quickly, and under pressure is Jack Kenny. He's had a sensational game so far. And he hasn't faltered yet. Hatch, great battle there with Wobby, and Bailey Rule's clearance sliced away for a throw-in. Kamada leaving this throw in for De Godoy. McAnulty heads it on. Tomilic wins it back. Now Mitri. Ball back in the middle. Really good chance. Hatch jams away at it. And Rule out of danger for now. Ball won back here by Sydney United, and they're still in a dangerous area, as you can see there. Clarkson just getting that pass. And now Wabi does well to get past Hatch, taken out, and a free kick the other way. Bit surprising there. St. George, and myself included, thought they'd won the free kick, but it's gone the way of Sydney United 58. Maybe the ball doesn't lie. There's a decent effort there. First time strike by Kamada. Prendergast caught off his line a little bit and strong hand away to a bit of confusion between the two players here as to what happened with that free kick. But corner in the end for St. George City. 5 minutes to go. They'd love an opener just before the half. Sydney United have won the first half. 5 of their last 7 games. Let's see if that plays into the final result here, if it was to go into a draw or a win for the first half for either side. Paolo Mitri. Short to Kamada. Gets it back in the middle, and De Oliveira stuck out a leg. Curry under pressure by Darko. Does well to allow Bailey Rule to win the ball back. Under a bit of pressure, Rule, no other option there but to get it out. Otherwise risk a pretty dangerous attack there by St. George City. It's Ko De Godoy lining up a long throw. Fooled us all, went short to McNulty. Looking for the first time cross. It's a decent effort. No one at the back stick, and Hatch gets it away. Askew thought about the shot, but too many Sydney United legs in the way there. Hatch releases Jennings. Really good chance if he can get away from Wabi. But Wabi probably getting the better of him there and wins a foul for his side in the process. Kamada. Across McNulty. Good first time ball, but McGing's there again, and they've been pretty good so far. Both sets of centre backs, you got to say. McGing and Glassick on the Sydney United side, and De Godoy, Ergan and Askew. They've had plenty to do, but haven't faltered yet. Haven't cracked yet after what's been some pretty hardcore attack from both sides with just under 2 minutes to go here. Now Matthew Hatch. Tomilic switches it up. Beautiful ball to pick out Darko. Heads it forward. And Ergan, bit of mix up between him and Kenny there. The centre back getting his head to it first. McGing wins it back for Sydney United here. Shielded out for a throw though. De Godoy. Bailey Rule, good head back in. And Antelmi beats Askew to the ball. And a strong challenge there by Tomilic. But still end up with St. George City possession. There's the floodlights on here, probably the earliest they've ever been on at Adenza Park, just before 4 o'clock. Curry, good little 1-2 play here by St. George City. Clarkson's ball to Kamada, goes astray, but positive signs there for St. George City in attack, because they showed plenty of flashes of that in the early stages of the first half. So the fourth official ready to indicate injury time. This regulation time expires here. 1 minute of injury time. So 60 seconds to go after this. So 1 minute to go. Jennings beaten off the ball, calls for a foul not given. Cox, now a good chance. Mitri with a bit of space, just not as many options in attack as he would like. A bit frustrated with himself there for losing the ball, but it was a strong defensive effort by Carlos de Oliveira. Classic. Hatch. De Oliveira, and Jennings was looking for the turn, but Askew beat him to it. Clarkson now. Be keen to keep some possession for a little bit here, St. George City. Haven't had much of it in the last couple of minutes, but that's the end of the first half here at the Sydney United Sports Centre. Both sides taking their claim for the opening goal. But we'll be back for the first half in 15 minutes, so please join us then.
Scores from other grounds. Rockdale 2 leads Sydney FC Youth 0, and Apia 1 leads Sydney Olympic 0.
Welcome back. Second half here at Sydney United Sports Centre. Just about to get back underway here. No goals in the first half, but plenty of action and plenty of chances, which either side could have opened the scoring with two brilliant bits of goalkeeping from either set of men. In between the sticks, Tristan Prendergast for Sydney United 58 and Jack Kenny for St George City. Keeping scores level for the time being. Pretty even first half. Both sides had their periods of dominance, holding possession and having the attacking chances, but as we mentioned, the keepers and defences coming out on top in the first 45, but 45 minutes to go here to decide who will walk away with the points in this one. Richie Darko with an early ball in. Jennings, good cross back into the middle. And Milicevic, first chance of the second half, just comes 40 seconds after the restart. And a crucial deflection there by Dakota Askew. Gets his effort away, and it's going to be the man who had the shot, Milicevic, on corner duties. Milicevic on corner duty, just about everyone forward for Sydney United 58. But all defenders back for City. Kenny, good grab and a strong chance to get a counter-attack started here. As Patrick Anselmi doing a little dance with Jack Kenny there, trying to stop the counter-attack, which he's done so successfully and legally. Risky ball by Kenny, won by Tomilic, the captain for today, with Adrian Vlastelica out due to suspension. And Richie Darko battling with Ko Degudo there, and it's claimed by the referee to have gone off him, and not much complaints there by Degudo. Richie Darko will collect that and try to get his side their first goal of the game. Promising signs in the first 2 minutes of this second half. Darko, strong ball in, just no one at the back stick. And that'll roll out for a throw for St George City. But high press from Sydney United, looking to trap them in this left corner. So, updates from around the grounds as well. The two other games, the simultaneous kickoffs. RPL Leichhardt still with a 1-0 lead over Sydney Olympic in the match of the round. And Rockdale with a 2-0 lead over Sydney FC. Both those games also being streamed on YouTube as well if you wish to flick over and check out the action. Obviously plenty of big results around the league in the last 2 days. Matthew Hatch, great interception. And looking for options forward now. Hatch sees a hole, goes for it. Hatch pushed off the ball and a free kick just at the edge of the box there. Dakota Askew not happy with that one. Wasn't the hardest of contact, but definitely enough to warrant a foul in that part of the field. So De Oliveira has had luck with his free kick strike so far, and if I was St George City, I'd be very, very wary of Adam Milicevic at the edge of the box here. Just lurking for a potential little touch there from De Oliveira. Also got Leroy Jennings as well, holding his line with the defence. Quick one. Milicevic, 1-2 to De Oliveira, and a good block by Mitri to stop that one. Set piece from the training ground doesn't go the way for Sydney United that they'd want. Strong touch there by, was Kamada on the left. Tomilic working overtime to halt the counter-attack. So, as we mentioned, the big results over the last couple of days. 2 Friday night games, Manly United and the 0-0 draw against St. George City's rivals, the St. George Saints. And the Western Sydney Wanderers and Central Coast Mariners sharing the points in what could be a crucial point for both sides in the relegation scrap. So plenty of relegation implications in that one, as the Northwest Sydney Spirit kicked off proceedings yesterday with a 5-0 win over Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Also in that relegation mix as the Marconi Stallions got back to their winning ways against Sutherland. And Blacktown City rounded out Saturday night with a 1-0 win over the Wollongong Wolves. And as we mentioned, the two other games, RPL Leichhardt and Sydney Olympic, up here with a 1-0 lead over Sydney Olympic, and Rockdale Linden 2-0 over Sydney FC. And as we look ahead to next week as well, so the reverse fixtures of the first half of the season start to come into play. So Sydney United will head to Sutherland to play the Sutherland Sharks on Saturday at 4 o'clock, whilst St. George City with a derby against Rockdale Linden at their home, which they've played plenty of home games, it must be said, for their last 5 at home. So you wonder if that plays a bit into it as well, playing a long stance at home in familiar settings, familiar fans. You know, that familiarity factor plays a massive part in it. And it's why these two sides are very, very good at home, both of them, with that advantage that all sides hold. Classic. Tomilich. It's the rain starting to come down a little bit here at Adenza Park, and it's coming in sideways because it's starting to hit us here underneath the Boca stand, which is never a good sign, considering how far this goes over us at the top tier of the Boca stand here. But that surface, as it starts to get a little bit wet, a little bit slippery on the synthetic turf, wonder if that will play a factor in the rest of the game, as the synthetic turf here especially, it seems to skim the ball a little bit more. It just gets that little bit of extra zip as it hits the surface, as Tariq Ergan heads it back to Jack Kenny, who wastes little time and almost took out his centre-back in the process. A little bit rushed. His goal kick goes straight out for a throw-in. And Hatch back to Classic. Started just about every game this season for Sydney United 58, Michael Classic, and majority of those in the midfield, and forced to switch to centre-back and to replace Adrian Vlastelica. It's probably the one weakness, if you will, of the Sydney United 58 squad, is probably a little bit of lack of depth in the centre-back pairing, or the centre-back role. They've got plenty of good options, but Antelmi's shot deflects straight into the path of Jack Kenny. But yeah, that centre-back position, probably just a little bit short on it at the moment, Sydney United 58, because if Classic or McGing was to go down, you're really down to two starting options, with Tomilich arguably the only other player comfortable in this setup playing there. You also got Anthony Krilich as well, who played in the 20s today. Obviously, this club prides itself on the development of youth, which they've done pretty successfully over the last couple of years, let alone their entire history, and they've got plenty waiting in the wings, that's for sure. As a great win back there by Liam McGing, setting up a potential counter-attack here for Sydney United 58. Just going back to basics here, Sydney United looking to play it out from the back and reset and not force the attack. Bailey Rule now forward. Good first touch by Di Oliveira. Try to release Richie Darko, who's, must be said, both fullbacks from St. George City doing a pretty good job to contain the pretty lethal winger duo of Richie Darko and Leroy Jennings. The Fijian international Leroy Jennings, as Kenny disposes of that one. And not entirely diffused for St. George City now. Bit of a sloppy back pass. Antelmi plays Jennings through, and his touch just wasn't there. The outstretched foot just in short, and that ball rolls out for a goal kick. So interestingly, in the last 4 meetings between these two sides, since St. George City were promoted from the Football New South Wales League 1 in 2022, played each other 4 times, and it has never ended in a draw. 2 wins apiece for both sides. St George City getting a win in this exact fixture last year in round 15 as Wabi tried to play it through to McNulty, who was pretty offside, and he's a bit frustrated with his striker there, the wing back, but the last time they played was the last time that St George City got a win was round 15 in the 2024 competition, and it was Lewis Curry taking out man of the match honours that day with a sensational performance. But then in the round 30 fixture in 2024, it was a 1-0 win for Sydney United. It's Dom Cox here, gets it back into the middle, not cleared out of danger. Kamada just plays it back, and this is where St George will look to reset. Askew tries to play Wabi through, and just a little bit of frustration you're sensing from the St George City bench and players. These final passes in the final third just not really sticking. Good battle on the sideline there for possession. Goes the way of St George City. Keeps them in a prominent attacking position. And coughed up pretty quickly there. Commentators curse striking as the rain continues to play its part here as the stands without cover start to clear out. Mitri has Jennings for company, and he's fouled in the process. A free kick for St George City. So the two wins that Sydney United have over St George City, both 1-0 wins. They had them in round 14 in 2023, and then obviously, as we said, round 30 last year. And then the last time St George City won here was round 29 with a 2-1 win, should be said, in the penultimate round of 2024. You probably be able to hear that wind and rain gust just coming in now, and that'll certainly play a factor here. Starting to pelt down a little bit in Adenza Park. De Oliveira gets it forward, and this one has just come out of nowhere, really. It's caught everyone, even the players, you'd suggest, off guard. Mitri tries to get a cross in and just skewed it a little bit, and it goes straight to Tristan Prendergast. You got to think that wind's definitely starting to play a factor now. It's raining sideways, and that's just from the wind. None of the players really prepared for it, you got to say. So a throw for St George City. Askew. Wabi. De Godoy under a bit of pressure there by Darko, and De Oliveira was very vocal in the first half with urging his team to push forward on the high press, but not in the second half, must be said. We'll wonder what happened there. McNulty, ball out wide. Kamada has to go first time, gets it across goal, and he'll have to work hard for this Wabi, but Hatch beats him to it and takes him out in the process, Matthew Wabi, but can't win the throw for his side. Hatch just gets rid of it, and that's probably what they needed. Good catch on the sideline there by the St George City coach. De Godoy. Long ball from Ergun, direct to McNulty, holds it up for Clarkson. Out wide to Wabi. Askew. Great ball out wide. Kamada calls for a handball, not given, but Darko's there working back in defence. Now Bailey Rule just has to get rid of it, and he does so. It's probably the smart thing to do, even if it did go to the St. George City defence, because Leroy Jennings is there on clean-up duty. Ergun. Godoi. Darts past a couple. He's threatened to do that all game. And now a chance. Paolo Mitri goes for it and hits the post and out. Out of absolutely nothing. Ko de Godoi ran forward and created that attack for his team and almost set up Paolo Mitri for the first goal of the game, and very unlucky to hit the wrong side of the post there. Had Prendergast beat. Another warning shot there for Sydney United. Their defence as Ante Juric lines up a substitution. It's going to be Mario Chabot coming on. The experienced central midfielder. Back to the action through Richie Darko. Looks for the long switch. Went a bit more direct. The bounce caught him off guard and he's been taken out, Leroy Jennings, and the referee gives a free kick just at the edge of the box, but the linesman's got his flag up. Believe it's offside by Leroy Jennings. Yes, it's offside. So no foul and a little push and shove between Jack Kenny and Patrick Antelmi here. So at first, just about everyone here thought it was a free kick given to Sydney United 58 as Leroy Jennings, was Tariq Ergun who took him out going for the ball, but obviously got the ball as well by the referee's judgment. And a double yellow card issued here between Jack Kenny and Patrick Antelmi. So double substitution here. So it's going to be Richie Darko making way for the side's joint top scorer, Mason Wells, and Aiden Milicevic will come off for Mario Chabot.
Coming on for Sydney United, number 8, Mario Chabot, and number 23, Mason Wells.
So after the dust settles here, it's a free kick for St. George City. It's Jack Kenny and Patrick Antelmi. Just caution to keep it cool out there. A good challenge there by Antelmi to pick the pockets of Dom Cox. As Chabot's first touch off the bench, not the best. Gifting possession to St. George City. And Matthew Hatch on clean-up duty there. Out wide, Bailey Rule has the fresh legs of Mason Wells overlapping. It doesn't choose to go there. Goes Carlos de Oliveira in the middle. Matthew Hatch, first time through ball. A little bit wayward and out for a goal kick. Disappointing end to what looked like a promising attack there for Sydney United 58. Strong run here by Mitri. It's Lewis Curry, I should say, and he's been fouled by, look to be Bailey Rule on the left there. Oh, sorry, Mason Wells, the fresh substitute, making his mark on the game. Lewis Curry goes for it from long range. Had the legs just a little bit too much and never really any trouble there for Tristan Prendergast. And he looks for the short goal kick and he gets that done successfully to Tomilic. Spreads it out wide to Bailey Rule. No time wasted. Trying to feed Antelmi forward and it's cleared out of danger by De Godoy. But that one just forced perfectly to Tomilic. Had his pockets picked there by McNulty. Clarkson back to his centre half, De Godoy. Kenny, first time, didn't get underneath it properly, and De Godoy does very well to try and keep that in, but was outside of the field of play whilst headering that, and it'll be a throw in for Sydney United 58. Wells. 1-2 with Raw and try to pick out Antelmi and lost possession in a pretty bad spot. St. George City look to conjure up a counter-attack. Possession won back by Mason Wells. Beaten out to the ball there by Brody Clarkson, who will let that one go for a goal kick. So under pressure, Jack Kenny and Matthew Hatch look to have got a foot to that, but strategically has cleared that and let it out for a throw as Sydney United regain possession, and that high press paying off in their final third. Wells trapped in a bad spot there and almost won back. That's Komada again. Chabot. Wells, good fake and went for goal. A little bit too high, even if it was a cross. Still a little bit too deep for the oncoming run of Leroy Jennings, and a goal kick again for St. George City. So in the attacking department, we've got Nathan Roberts that can come on. He's found the back of the net already for St. George City this season. Sydney United, in terms of their attacking options, really down to Luke Zuvella and Stephen de Robillard. So Kai Kamikuda, Cameron Kemp, Nathan Grimaldi, William Kunis and Gonzalo Agriles. The only options on the bench for St. George City. A strong challenge there by Chabot, but throw-in conceded. Zwabi will pick that one up. Cox, pockets picked there by Tomilic, but another throw for St. George City. Mitri tried to flick that one onto his own path, and Glassick under a bit of pressure has to head that one out for a corner. Strong ball in, direct at Prendergast, gets a fist at it and cleared away by Tomilic. And now Mario Chabot in on goal, just has one to beat Chabot, gets past Askew. Mario Chabot for Sydney United. Taken down, and a great defensive effort there by Dakota Askew. Saves a goal for St. George City. And Tomilic again, setting up another attack. Mason Wells puts that one forward, inadvertently through to Carlos de Oliveira. The best chance of the game so far. Just off a simple clearance there by Tomilic. And a corner here for Sydney United 58, but worth a watch back on the replay there. Tomilic just sends it forward, trying to clear it, and I think he'll claim strategically he's seen Chabot open there, and Jack Kenny was pushed up almost near the halfway line, was doing some solid tracking back, but Askew did so well to cover that off. Mason Wells, looping cross. Classic heads it back into the middle, but only as far as Clarkson. And Rule has to work double here with a double header to get this one away. Leroy Jennings. And that extra bounce caught him off as he knocks it out for a throw-in. Ko de Godoy on the ground as St. George City will look to make a substitution, and it's likely going to be de Godoy coming off. So Ko de Godoy, solid shift, very, very decent effort. He'll make way for Nathan Grimaldi, the former Newcastle Jets youth product, and Nathan Roberts as well will come on for Lewis Curry, it looks like, who is already in the referee's book.
Coming on for St. George, number 7, Nathan Roberts, and number 15, Nathan Grimaldi.
So Grimaldi will fill in for that third spot of the back three, whilst Roberts shifting more as an advanced left-sided midfielder, or sorry, an advanced attacking midfielder, as Paolo Mitri pushes out a little bit to make way for Roberts. More natural goal scorer Nathan Roberts, showing his quality in this competition so far, no matter what colour of his jersey. Askew has to head it back to Jack Kenny. Under pressure again here, Kenny does well to just calmly dink that one away, but Matthew Hatch gets there first. Leroy Jennings now, chance for a shot, goes for it, and deflected into the path of Jack Kenny. Good defense there. Defensively holding very strong both sides. Very valiant 0-0 from both teams. Put through now, Kamada. And one back by Chabot. Made a pretty big impact coming off the bench, Mario Chabot. Just injected a bit of fresh legs into the middle of the park as Rule gives it up. Mitri tries to play it through, but it's Classic stopping it and halting the counter-attack for the time being. Askew. Clarkson, great 1-2. Wabi has to get past Jennings. They've both gone to ground, and it's going to be a free kick for St. George City. So Paolo Mitri on this one. So many options for them. Are they going to go cross? Is it going to go direct? Edge of the box. Looped in, and nothing really too dangerous about that one for St. George City, as Prendergast looked to set off Mason Wells and Leroy Jennings early there, but McNulty wisely getting in the way of that just to stop that. Putting his body on the line there, the number 9 for St. George City. Kamada. A rare appearance on the right side of the park for him tonight. Finds himself in the middle now. Good ball from Cox. But an even better stop by Glassick, and McGing gets United's counter-attack going. McGing again. Now Glassick. Hatch tried to switch it up, and you could see what he was doing there. Mason Wells had plenty of room to play with, but just didn't get underneath it as much. But it's going to work out well for Sydney United in the end. It does end up getting to Mason Wells. He just had to get it himself. Tomilic, good ball, good vision to find Hatch. In space. Return to sender with Tomilic now. Another good switch to Bailey Rule. Both Wells and Hatch in space out wide, and that's what Chabot sees, but doesn't want to risk giving the ball away in such a good area. Chabot, good ball out wide now to Hatch. Jennings beaten to it there by Askew. Has to back heel it to stop it going out for a throw, but it's possession back the way of Sydney United 58. So 14 minutes to go. You just feel like this game's got one more, or one goal in it at least, and you got to think this late into the game that one goal will likely be the decisive one. It's just going to take a moment of brilliance or a moment of lapse from either side, really. Good overlapping run now, Kamada. Goes one way, goes the other, in and out, and it's a great challenge there. I think it was Bailey Rule. He claims it was clean, but it's gone out for a corner as Luke Zuvella getting ready to come on, potentially for Patrick Antelmi up top. Mitri's cross, open header. It was Grimaldi, the substitute. Got ahead to it, but just looped it a little bit too much. Went for precision over power and just off the mark. So Patrick Antelmi's going to come off for Luke Zuvella on the Sydney United 58 bench. And Paolo Mitri will come off as well. He's had a good shift today, the number 10 for St. George City.
Coming off for St. George is number 18, Giancarlo Agreos.
As you heard there, it's number 18.
St. United, number 37, Luke Chuvella.
Gonzalo Agrelos coming on as the shadow striker, number 10-9 role, if you will, for St. George City. As Classic gets them back underway, and Zuvella's first involvement in the game. A good header back to Carlos de Oliveira. He's out there with his cousin, Anthony Tomilic, the captain as well. It's a family club here, Sydney United. Chabot. Good little 1-2 there with Wells. Picked out by Grimaldi, but back the way of Sydney United 58. Tomilic, good switch out to Bailey Rule. Darts onto that with a bit of pace. Chabot, back out wide, Wells. It's good defensive work here by St. George City, just cutting off all the options and not allowing Sydney United to come at them. And a mix-up there between McGing and Tomilic gives St. George City a good chance here from a throw-in. Now it's McNulty. Cuts it back in for Roberts. McNulty again. Good ball in. A chance now. Great stop by McGing, but got right back in by McNulty, and a beautiful chance there for Wabi. Just a little bit too low, and he was expecting it to come to head high, and if that was head high, that's probably a goal, and it just slapped him in the chest, stomach area. Very unlucky there by St. George City. Hatch darting on. He's been running all day, and he doesn't look tired at all. Both wing-backs so incredibly fit for both sides as well, it must be said. Roberts, his touch is a little bit heavy, and one back by Wells, cleaned up by Tomilic. Chabot pays him back, Wells. And try to skin Kamada there. It didn't work out too well for him. just under 10 minutes to go here of regulation. It's been a thrilling game. The scoreline might not suggest it, but it's been a really entertaining game. Both sides having their chances and throwing it all forward in attack. So, quick update around the grounds. Up your Leichhardt 2-0 against Sydney Olympic now, and Sydney FC have scraped one back against Rockdale Linden. So, plenty of tight finishes here. All games going down to the wire on this Sunday. 3 o'clock kickoff slot. Chabot cuts out to find Wells. McGing. Glassick. Now to Oliveira. Good switch up by McGing. Hatch, almost the first time touch/cross to find Leroy Jennings, who was waiting at the front stick for that one, and he's touched just a little bit wayward. Cleaned up pretty comfortably in the end there by Jack Kenny. One back by Rule. De Oliveira darts onto it, plays it through. Jennings! Leroy Jennings, another sensational save by Jack Kenny, staking his claim for a man of the match so far. What a save, Jack Kenny. Keeping St. George City's clean sheet intact. Wells's cross headed in by Hatch, and was it deflected? Yes, it was. Another corner for Sydney United. De Oliveira's cross. Good dangerous area and cleared away again by the defensive structure of St. George City. And another corner for Sydney United 58. 7 minutes to go. Sydney United knocking on the door for a late opener. Mason Wells this time. Goes front stick and it's almost deflected in. Tomalich, and it's in! Hit in by the end. Tomalich is claiming it, and it's a rare goal for Anthony Tomalich. And 83 minutes into this one, Sydney United have their opener.
Sydney United 1, lead St. George City 0.
He doesn't score many, but he won't score many more important than that one, Anthony Tomalich. A great comeback story as well. Spent a bit of time out of the first team squad. Had to fight his way back into it. Going all the way now to back in the team and wearing the captain's armband and scoring potentially the winner. But Sydney United want more. Wells back into Chabot. And out for another corner. So you've seen both Sydney United 58 centre-backs wanting to go forward, but Coach Carlos de Oliveira telling them to get back just in case, because St. George City have got plenty of numbers forward again. Glassick heads it back. Tomalich, he won't go for it again, will he? Crosses it back in. Kenny, strong hands to get to that one first. Good goalkeeping there. Rolls it out. Good stuff there by Agrelos. And McNulty stopped on his track to the goal by Matthew Hatch. Wabi cuts past a couple Sydney United defenders there, but his pass stuffed out by De Oliveira, and now Jennings. Zuvela back to Jennings there. Classic. Hatch under pressure now. St. George City are desperate to get this draw back at the least, with just under 5 minutes to go. Chabot has to work hard to get it past Tadigagan, but found him in the process, and a crucial free kick here for St. George City, as everyone will have to get back for Sydney United if they'll want to preserve the 3 points here. Cox try to play it through to McNulty, and again the Sydney United 58 defence on top. But they are not out of jail just yet. Got a sense that this could be the way the game ends if St. George City just keep pressing forward. Agrelos try to get it to Cox, who slipped on what is a very slippery synthetic surface now as Hatch gets rid of it. Bobby. Cross deflected off Leroy Jennings, and that did not look good for the Sydney United 58 winger. Copped it straight to the head, and a likely concussion protocols will have to take place here, and just hope Jennings is alright after that one. Looked to hit him right in the ear as well. It stung like a flashbang. So Jennings seems okay, which is a good sign. He will have to come off for mandatory concussion testing, as Stephen de Robillard will likely replace him in the time being. Back to the action here. Good cross in, the back stick. Couple of options there, and Prendergast had to get at least a touch to it, and he did so with a strong grab on that. So Jennings back out on the field, calls for the early ball. Zuvela's onto it. He's probably 10 metres offside, and I think he realises that as he lets it go to Jack Kenny. Rule. His pass almost intercepted by Cox, but works out well. Zuvela gets it across to Jennings. A fantastic tackle by Dakota Askew. Another potential goal stopper by Dakota Askew. He's been absolutely sensational today. Stopped two clear-cut chances. One from Mario Chabot earlier in the second half, and that one there from Leroy Jennings. As Tadic Ergan goes in the book there, potentially for a bit of backcheck to the referee. So 90 seconds of regulation to go here. Zuvela try to play it back into Chabot, and he was expecting the ball back across. It was a good play in the end there by the youngster. It's Kenny. As much power behind that as he could. Find McNulty. And Jennings taken out by Agrelos, who might find himself in the book for that challenge. But Stephen de Robillard will come on in the interim for a short stint. So double substitution here. Kai Kamikura coming on, as well as Will Kunis. And it's Fumoto Kamada coming on, or coming off, and Dominic Cox as well coming off.
Coming on for Sino is number 22, Stefan de Robillard.
So Leroy Jennings makes way for Stephen de Robillard.
Kai Kamikura.
Long one by Hatch. Try to pick out Robillard, looking for his first involvement very quickly and almost keeps that one in a very dangerous area, but a goal kick in the end there. So 3 minutes of injury time. And the seconds ticking away for St. George City. Won't want that to be happening too often, giving possession away like that. Mason Wells looking to bury it. De Oliveira thought about it first time, has a touch. Carlos De Oliveira, Kenny saves it, and on the follow-up does well to make a double save and stops Zuvela from potentially scoring United's second. And Hatch headering that one away. Great game today from Matthew Hatch. Just the cherry on top with that one there on his performance today. McNulty tried to flick it on to the oncoming Roberts, and a miscue there by the captain, Tadic Ergun. And gives Sydney United the ball back. Zuvela and Askew battling hard for the ball there. And Wabi on the throw, headed away by Matthew Hatch. Appeals for a United throw, not given. Wabi again, just about everyone forward for St. George City. About 90 seconds of injury time remains. Tomilic gets a foot to it. De Oliveira heads that one out of danger for now. And double clean-up duty, Rule and Tomilic. Zuvela keeps possession. Does really well there, the youngster, but just too many St. George City shirts there. Working back in defence, De Oliveira wins it and gets it out of there. And the difficulty of no ball kids anymore is that having to jump over the fence to get your own ball. I implore all clubs to get back into that tradition because it avoids stuff like that. It's just under a minute to go here of injury time. This could be the last attack for St. George City if they can muster something up. First time cross in, headed away again by De Oliveira. And Zuvela's got options, but Ergun, or Askew it was, that held him up. And that could be the game right there. Chabot's chasing onto it. Kenny has to get rid of it and does pretty well in the end. Tomilic, good clearance, gets it through to Robillard, and that's all she wrote. Sydney United 58 with a valiant 1-0 win over St. George City.
Sydney United 1 have defeated St. George City 0. Scores in underground.
Thanks for joining us on the Football New South Wales YouTube page. I've been Dominic Cronidi. Have a good night.